Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching today. Today is Tuesday, August 3rd. And let me check, make sure I'm going live on Facebook. And there I am. So today's topic, and I have a few people that texted me, a couple loan officers too, because they saw the topic and they said this is intriguing. I want to hear what Tony has to say about this. So the topic is final loan approval. Final loan approval. It does not exist. That's the topic. So first, I want to do a little disclaimer before I go into some stories and some tips and some ideas, especially our newer agents or the newer agents out there, is that this is my experience. This is my opinion. I am not a loan officer. I've been in real estate for over 30 years. I was a loan officer very early on, over 20, going almost 25 years ago. I was a loan officer for several years. So, but that was many years ago before all of this. And also selling about over 200 houses a month and 2,500 plus houses a year over decades. We come into situations where we learn from just the sheer numbers of sales, of situations, things that don't go right all of the time. And today's topic is about the loan approval process and the final loan approval, or clear to close, or things out there. And just like today, there's so many more people in real estate than there was just a few years ago. There's more realtors out there, and there's a lot more loan officers out there. I don't think there's as many loan officers as there was way back in about almost 20 years ago, but there are more today than there were 5 years ago, or 6 years, 7 years ago. So the reason why I brought that up is that there's lots of great realtors and that are great in communicating and say everything, and there's lots of great loan officers, but sometimes the loan officers and realtors don't communicate well, sometimes completely, about the loan approval process and being transparent of what's happening. So today, and that's my disclaimer of some of the things I'm going to talk about, and I'll try to keep this down to like 10 minutes, but there's no such thing, we'll come out and say, as a final loan approval until the actual funding of the loan, the actual funding, the buyer and seller sign their paperwork and it closes. If you dig into and talk to any loan officer that's been in the business a while, or any owner of a mortgage company or an underwriter, those mysterious people, you've heard of these underwriters. Have you ever met one? It's like the Wizard of Oz. They're behind a curtain somewhere. These underwriters that actually are the people that approve the loan at the mortgage company or bank that no one usually is allowed to talk to or know who they are. But if you ever know one, they'll tell you that we have terms that we use in real estate like final loan approval, a commitment that all terms are met, especially listing agents. Hopefully a lot of you are listening. They love to hear that. They bug the loan officer that they have 30 days to get the final commitment or loan approval. And it's not closing for 45 days. But just want to and I teach this to our new agents as much as possible to let them know, especially when I start listing, is that that's not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. The day before closing, most mortgage companies and bank will double check their verify their employment. Verify where their money is, make sure the money is still in the bank that they're about to send to the title company, and verify that. And if something changes between the time of loan approval and closing, that could hurt the mortgage and kill their financing. This has happened. I'm going to give you a few stories. We've had buyers get to right the day before closing. And at that time, this is 45 days into it, the sellers moved out. The seller bought a new house. They're moving into their new house. They've vacated their old house the day before closing. The lender calls with terrible news is that the buyer didn't tell us they changed jobs, or they lost their job a couple days before closing. They verified employment. There's no more employment. The bank's backing out. So the point being is when you are buyer's agent, listing agent, and that lender 30 days into it, they go, hey, we have loan approval. All conditions have been met at that point. They're going to say you have a commitment or you have an approval of loan, but there's a little underlying thing that some lenders don't tell you. And then this is the actual point of this video too, is they sometimes don't tell the buyer this or express this to buyers, that as long as nothing changes from that time with their employment, with their financing, and their funds in the bank, and nothing of that changes there. So one of the things I want all agents to take away from this is that you can make sure your buyer understands that and not rely on the lender and the loan officer to express that. They might express it, but a lot of buyers, they get excited. I want loan approval, and they hear that, and then their attention span goes lost. They're thinking about the new house. They want to tell their friends or family their loan's approved. They want to buy furniture, all of this stuff, and they don't hear that. So make sure you explain to your buyers, congratulations, you got loan approval. But remember, all that money that they verified in your bank account, keep it there. Do not spend it. Your credit cards, their balances on there, whatever it is, don't all of a sudden get double your balances in there. Do not change jobs. Do not quit. Do not change jobs. Don't look for a new job. Do not start looking to get credit cards or financing for furniture, and where you're going to get inquiries on your credit. Stop everything and don't do anything. That could affect your credit, could affect your income, could affect your funds in the bank. Example, I have lots of stories I could tell, things falling apart last minute, but example, we had one that almost fell apart just because of the down payment. Example, buyer was putting, let's say $50,000 down, $5,000 was coming from them. $25,000 was coming from a gift. The day of closing, they decided, it was a mother and daughter, the daughter and mother decided, I'm going to gift you a little bit more money. So the day of closing, they signed their papers. They got the funds. The title company got the funds. Now, one thing that you don't understand is that when the lender sends their documents to the title company, they tell them where the funds are supposed to come from. They say verify $25,000 came from the buyer, and $25,000 came from the mother, and they might even specify the exact count numbers that they're wired from. So sometimes buyers and the lenders don't explain it to them. You can't change that, because that's going to be a condition of the loan that they make sure. And in this case, the day of closing, the buyer decided, my mom's going to give me more money. My mom's going to give me $30,000. I'm only going to bring $20,000. Still $50,000. The lender denied the loan, said you can't do that. Well, they kind of denied the loan. The money's there, the funds are there, they're closing. They said no, deal's not filing. And the day of closing, we're supposed to file that day, the buyer had to run around, redo the paperwork, redo the money, go back to the bank. The buyer had to go and say no, send the money, send $25,000, not 20 to the bank. Say she had to send another $25,000. The title company had to refund $5,000 back from the mother, and everybody had to rush around the day of closing because they decided last minute, because they just thought it was $50,000, doesn't matter where it comes from. So the point of that story is that just that little change, it's not even a dollar amount, it's not their the money was there, but sometimes the clients don't know how important that is. You can't even change that. Now, if there's any realtors watching this that have been in business many years and have lots of sales and have never had a deal fall apart the day of before closing because of financing, the chances are, the good news is, congratulations, you've never had that situation. But I know, if you've been in business for many years, that you've had near misses. And if you don't know about them, then you had loan officers that didn't tell you because they just did their job. They might be great loan officers, and you're kind of like they were your parents. You know how when you're a little kid, your parents don't want to tell you the whole story because they don't want you to worry about, how close you came to whatever in life. Hopefully nothing bad, but I'm just saying, like little things, little hiccups in life. And as you grow up as a kid, maybe you whatever, something at school or another friend or a play date, we, as parents, I did this to my kids. You kind of, you shelter them. You want to, I don't want to tell them everything that could have gone wrong because I corrected it before it happened. You follow me? A lot of great loan officers do that. They don't worry you, but they, just like this case, I know we fixed it with that scenario with the mom and her daughter and the day of closing, but the loan officer didn't tell us that this was happening until after she fixed it and let us know. We just almost had a near miss. If this, all of a sudden she didn't have the money or we couldn't get the title company to cooperate and do all of this. But they corrected it beforehand. So you probably had, the whole point was that you might have had near misses and you just didn't know the story that the loan officers were telling you of the near misses. And any loan officer watching this, like, oh yes, there's this, there's that, there's this. And a lot of times loan officers, especially in this market, they're busy getting pre-approvals and things. They don't tell the realtor everything. They just handle it and don't want to worry them because they corrected different situations. And a lot of that goes on. So the point to today was that, one, my opinion is that you make sure when it's your buyers that they know, and you have a good conversation with the lender that I'm going to help you, loan officer, make sure they don't change anything and do anything and open credit cards or spend money on their credit cards or different things, especially when from the time of they're approved to closing, and there's some period of time because people forget. They start going buying furniture. Now, the other thing is, to any agent, and I had this conversation with an agent last week, a veteran agent. She's been in the business over 30 years, longer than I have. And I had to have a conversation with her about this, that for over 30 years, she thought a loan commitment was 100%. So anybody out there that this is the first time you've heard of this, that I'm breaking the news that there's no such thing as a final loan approval or a commitment guaranteeing a loan until closing, you're not alone. Because we were told that 30 years ago when I got in real estate. A loan commitment means they're approved and you could relax. No, you can't. So I just want to get that word out to agents that actually believe that. And if you've never had a problem, great, I'm happy for you, but this is to show you and express that you can, as listing agents, make sure the buyer's agent, because there's a lot of new agents out there, just so many. We alone, just in our office, this year, over 40 brand new agents right out of school, and I have 60 plus more in school right now. Just our office alone, we'll have over 100 brand new agents licensed in 2021. Now, add that up throughout all the other offices, hundreds and hundreds of offices in Ohio. There's a lot of brand new agents. Unfortunately, some of them are not with companies or offices that have the support, have the training, have the knowledgeable, experienced people behind them to tell them these stories and train them on this, and they don't know this. So listing agents, look at that license number. See the agents that how long they've been in business. Have a nice conversation with them when it's their buyer. Please, I don't know your lender personally. Please make sure your buyer knows once they get their loan commitment. Don't change anything. Be that veteran. Be that person that has more experience in a nice way. You don't, I always say that. I just say I'm here to help. Just make sure they don't spend money on their credit cards, change jobs, do this, and we're happy that they're approved, but maybe their lender is not telling them this. And last today, one other thing, I'm going to switch subjects to cash because I see more and more cash deals out there. So I'm going to tell you this. This is, and I'll only take up a couple minutes of your time. Some things to think about cash. I've had cash deals the day before closing. Buyers drop out, and I'll give you, and they're like, how's that possible? They have the money. We verified they have the funds. I'm going to give you a few scenarios, and I tell our agents to look out for and make sure with their buyers and educate them. I've had buyers that show us an investment account going, I'm buying this house cash. Just throw out there $200,000. I got $300,000 in this account. Here it is. Here's my account. Right before closing, we're going to liquidate those funds. And already I have some agents, I could hear it. I could hear it through the internet. You're like, oh my God, what? Because you've been through this. They have 300,000 account. I got plenty of money. We're going to liquidate this funds. Now, those buyers didn't tell us that that's a retirement account. They just showed us an account. 2, they did not talk to their investment advisor, their accountant, their tax advisor. I've had agents get to closing on a cash deal the day before. They call up, the buyers call up their investment guy and go, hey, or girl, we'd like to liquidate $200,000 and buy a house. They're like, what? You can't do that. You're going to have to pay taxes on that. You're going to have to pay penalties on that. They're like, I do? I thought I had the money. They're like, no, why didn't you call me when you were buying a house thinking you're going to use that money? And then we get the call from the buyer going, we're not closing. We thought this was cash, but no, it's in my investment. It's in my retirement account, and I'm going to have to pay tax on it and get penalties, and we can't afford to buy this house anymore because we didn't ask questions on where the cash was coming from. We didn't advise them to make sure that they called their tax advisor, their investment advisor, their accountant, because we're not the experts in that, and make sure they could take the money out for that. Unless the money is in a savings account or checking account ready to move, then you never know. Also, I've been suggesting to our sellers, now listen to this. Some agents go, well, it's my seller. How do I protect my seller to make sure we don't get all the way to closing and they can't liquefy these funds? Or I'm just saying a timeline. I've had buyers, especially in this market with the stock market going up, wait to the day before closing to liquefy these funds because they want every penny out, and then find out it's going to take a week to 2 weeks to liquefy these funds and sell these stocks and get the money checked. And then they have to send a check in the mail to them to deposit, and that's going to take time. And then the buyers wait until right before closing to do this and find out now we have to delay closing because the money is not like that the next day. So to the sellers, if it's our seller, if it's your seller, my suggestion, disclaimer, my suggestion is now if it's a cash deal, they could deposit, and it's not closing for 45 days. Guess what? The buyer can deposit all of the money tomorrow. So I've been telling our agents, not all the money, but a bigger earnest money. Or if it's 45-day close, you want the funds deposited in 20 days. You want all the money has to be deposited in the title company 2 weeks, 3 weeks before closing. Now, sometimes a buyer might fight you on this. Well, I'm not going to earn interest on that. That's not your concern when you work for the seller. You're looking out for their best interest. You want to guarantee that they're not something's going to happen, the money won't be there, they can't get it out of an account, or all of a sudden there's some other expense that comes up, because we've had that happen too. I've had buyers right before closing have the funds for a cash deal or just a down payment, and something drastic happened in their life. They had to, buy a car, they had to help a child, something health related, and the money that they were going to use for a down payment or cash, they had to use it. They had no other option, and now they don't have the money to close. So when you're the seller, to protect, earlier the better. Don't say funds and documents on a cash deal 2 days before closing. Say funds 3 weeks before closing, and documents 2 days before closing. You can do that. Again, this is my opinion. Check if you're not one of our agents, check with your broker or manager on their suggestions, but it's just a suggestion on how to protect your sellers on that. So I know I went way over. It's a 20 minutes. That should have been 10 minutes on that. But I could have stories after stories of things falling apart at closing with loans that were supposed to be approved, with cash deals that were supposed to be cash and the money was supposed to be there. Bottom line is there's different ways you can do to protect your sellers. There's different ways you can advise your buyers to make sure things go well when they have cash and or financing, and make sure nothing changes. So I gave you some ideas there. But Century 21 Home Star agents, if you need me, call me. If you have a cash buyer, you have someone that's iffy with financing, or you think that they're so excited they might talk about changing jobs or buying furniture or buying a car or whatever situation that might change their financial situation between time of buying a house and closing, get me involved. I'm happy to help. And any agent out there, use me as a resource. If you want to run some ideas or thoughts, I have story after story to tell you. And also, I like to use these stories to tell our buyers and sellers these stories of things that can happen, so they're aware that it's not it's important that they know that these things can happen to them or to the other side, and why they should protect themselves when it's they're the buyer, or protect themselves when it's the seller, or in a better way, making sure the deal is going to go through, and there's no little things financially that fall through last minute that no one was sure about that could kill the deal at the end. So that's it for today. Sorry for the long one today, but this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because I love to make sure I catch things before they, possible problems that they could happen at the end. It's never fun. As a broker, and the amount of times I've had to be on the phone with the buyer and the seller and try to keep things together and calm everybody down and put the pieces back together at the end to keep a deal together. If I had a nickel for every that, I would be a very happy man. But I don't like to see that happen, but I like to catch it before they do happen. So that's it for today. Have a great Tuesday. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon on Wednesday. Bye-bye.